Welcome, this is Hugh Massey again from DNA Behaviour. In this session, I'm going to talk to you about the financial DNA natural behaviour discovery process again, but I'm going to drill into our financial DNA one-page factor report. The case study again that I'm going to use is for Helen Jones, for consistency reasons, and her advisor is Chris Coddington. As the founder and developer of the system, I love using this one-page factor report because it gives me the specific measurements on the person that I'm facilitating. I like to know the precise scores and how they balance out, and I think it provides a good graphic representation of these insights. The reason we use the more summarized financial behavior report and then the summary report is that those reports bring together the insights that sit here in the one-page factor report. But for some people, seeing the technical psychometric measurements as they sit in this report can be overwhelming, and maybe it's too much information. But certainly you have access to this report if you want to get it, depending on your package, so that you can drill in further to see specific strengths and struggles and areas to concentrate on with the client. But this is the data that's used to build up all of our reports. So just to remind you of the structure here, we have 8 factors, and each factor comes with a right-hand side trait and a left-hand side trait. So for the commanding factor, we have the take charge trait, which is for when the score is 50 or more. And when it's under 50, we have the cooperative trait. And depending on the individual's T-score, the box will fill in dark blue there. So Helen is cooperative. She's got a T-score of 42. So therefore, the left-hand side fills out, and we would say that she has a cooperative trait. And she would be more cooperative than 21% of the population. Or the flip side is that she is, there is 79% of the population would be more commanding or take charge than what she is. We celebrate the strengths and struggles on both sides. So the fact that Helen might be lower on take charge is not how we look at it. In fact, we look at it that she's higher on cooperative, and there are strengths and struggles of being cooperative in terms of fitting in, listening, being group orientated, being collaborative, not trying to force decision making on other people. There are strengths to being cooperative. So that's what we celebrate for Helen. So that's important to understand the scoring. So it's in a bell curve with the T scores measured from 20 to 80. So we have in the middle, 31% of the population sit in the middle, but with T scores between 45 and 55, and then it's a spread going out to 80 and going across to 20. The closer the person gets to 80, the fewer population-wise sit there, and the same going across to 20. So a score of 30 is equally as strong as a score of 70. They're inside the top 2%. And so the bell curve looks like this. And it's just a population weighting. And what you'll see in some of our reports, including this one, we also allocate a population percentage. So again, with someone with a score of 42, they have a 21% population weighting there. Then we also measure SubFactors. So in this report, or for the system, there are 24 SubFactors in the system. You can see them down the page for the 8 factors. And for command, there are 3 SubFactors. Each SubFactor, in a way, is an element of commanding. That's the way of looking at it. But the three T scores here do not average out to 42. And that's just the way the system's designed. There's only, if there's approximately 22 to 24 words out of, or items out of the 138 are making up commanding. then less words are used from the commanding factor to build up consensus, group orientated and diplomatic. So put another way, the sub-factors are a little bit more volatile in their measurement, but they are providing valuable insights. So you can see here with Helen, she's quite consensus seeking. So she will want in financial decision making and any life decision making, she'll want consensus from her life partner, from her family members, and with her advisors. So she's going to a little bit follow their lead, fit in with their thinking. But from a self-reliance point of view, she's also happy to make up her own mind. So she's a little bit less group orientated in terms of the way she operates and makes decisions. So there is a balance there between those two for her. And then she's quite diplomatic. So what you need to be doing as an advisor is listening for what she's saying, because she's not going to be that frank and direct. It'll be a little bit what she communicates is sugar-coated. So you can see here, she'll follow the lead of the advisor. I think that's really what the and the agenda of the advisor, but she will be prepared to make up her own mind and do some of her own thinking and homework, and that's the self-reliance part. Then we can see that she's very strong here on the people factor. She's very outgoing, and the asterisk there indicates it's one of her two strongest factors overall, so that's where we mark that off. She's got a score of 71, which means she's more outgoing than 98% of the population, and she's strong on all three of those sub-factors. Then across the way here, she's quite fast-paced. She'll be quite rational, task-focused, results-focused, and that's quite a strong factor for her. You could expect her at times to ask questions, and then she's quite spontaneous down here as well. So you can see she's sort of tendency to be a little bit accurate or want accurate information, be quite precise in how she writes, but the rest of her is fairly general. She'll improvise, be quite instinctive in how she makes decisions. So her gut feeling is probably what's going to prevail. And with a score of 29, you know that's going to be strong. So, watch out for that happening if you're her advisor. Trusting, she's reasonably trusting, which is good. So she'll invest in building a trusted relationship with you, but be prepared for her to ask questions. Content is she's more about balanced life than necessarily setting competitive goals. So lifestyle orientated in terms of goals and her desires and motivations. She won't need a rigid approach to goal setting. Will be quite flexible with setting goals and going through life, so long as it's more about her lifestyle. But again, that's where you need to keep her on track, because at the end of the day, people who want a lifestyle do need money. And so some focus will need to be kept with her in that regard. But she's not going to step out of the box necessarily for a sustained period and really push herself in a competitive career. That would be unlikely that she did that year in, year out. Every person can do it for a season if they're passionate about something. And that would be the point. If she's passionate, finds her passion, then she will work harder and push herself harder. But nevertheless, a balanced life will be her comeback zone or go-to zone. Risk taking, she's somewhat in the middle when you balance it out. She'll be somewhat cautious or careful in what choices she makes, but those choices she makes, she'll have a high risk tolerance. She can live with the consequences. I think this is a good balance for clients because the careful sub-factor provides some boundaries to not just taking risks with every deal that presents themselves in front of her. And then you can see she's quite creative. So out of the box ideas, thinking, new solutions, she won't be scared to hear about it. So the one-page factor report, even though it's one page, gives you a lot more meat on the bone, a deeper understanding. It's what I call the MRI scan of the clients, not just an X-ray. You can get more specific. And with any of these stronger scores here, whether they're pushing past 60 up to 80 or going below 40 to 20, fertile ground for asking a question. Just reframe the word, into asking a question depending on the context of the situation, and you're going to get a much deeper conversation.